You're welcome. I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order.
Your mic's not on, John.
It is.
Oh.
Is your mic on?
Hello?
My mic's on.
My mic's on too.
He
Okay.
was late.
The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. We have 2219 health insurance renewal with Medina Mutual of Ohio. 2220 advance request. 2221 pay advance request. 2222 budget amendments. 2223 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding program Unicord. 224 amend salaries and benefits code MCRC part-time pay rate. 2225 amend salaries and benefits code MCRC part-time position creation. 226 increase expenditure advances outdoors Inc. Police Department. 2227 expenditure of 15,000 Premier Fire Rescue Fire Department cares. 2228 expenditure of 15,000 AED Stryker Medical Fire Department cares. 2229 expenditure over 15,000 Wirtz Geotechnical Engineering Department. 2230 consent legislation with ODOT sign replacement in city. 2231 discussion MCRC reopening changes. 2232 CARES Act small business grants. 2233 amend salaries and benefits code new MCRC superintendent position. And 2234 extend public defender contract for 2021. We have 2219 health insurance renewal Medical Mutual of Ohio. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. So Dino Shuley is here from DS Benefits if there's questions of the council. MMO originally quoted in the area of about a 15% increase, and part of that was because of the claims history of the last calendar year, and through the work of Dino's office, we were able to get that down to 9%. So some amount of savings there. And then I know in your packet we also ask that they do kind of a rate comparison since 2005 of how the city has done overall, and I think that came out right around 3%, if my memory is correct. .98% if you look from 2005 all the way present. So yes. So when you compare that to the state averages and private sector averages and stuff, we're still well below where the others are. Now the other thing with this 9% is there's a potential for the city to get an additional up to 5% reduction, but that is going to be based on looking at not only the 12 months usage, but also an extra 3 months. So it's really a 15-month window because some of the claims come in after the calendar year. But if we can keep our claims history down like we have in previous years, there's a potential to see that 9% come down to anywhere from 4 to something between 4 and 9. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and doing the best we can with it.
Thank you. Dino, a quick question for you. Do you know if through these times that we're having this pandemic and COVID, do you believe, or I would assume it may be true, that if we have any claims related to COVID, that'll count as a claim and they're not going to look at it as something unique or anything like that? So that could, unfortunately, that would have an adverse impact possibly on the next renewal.
Hey, Dino, I'm sorry. For the tape, if you could talk into this microphone here. I'm sorry.
What's happened is during COVID, many people didn't go see the doctor. All right, now you had some rougher claim experience, but they're predicting that those claims come back next year, or at least a part of them, not all of them. So there's some debate on how much will bounce back.
Right, because they didn't go this year and it may have gotten worse and then next year the complication or whatever they had that they didn't get checked out the year before, maybe preventative, would cause claims to spike.
Right, correct.
I got you. Any questions for you?
Dino, thank you.
Sure.
My medical insurance company, Medical Mutual, gave for the month of December, gave me a 40% reduction or something like that. Was there anything like that given to any of the City of Medina employees?
No, there was a 9% increase over last year because there were a certain amount of large claims that pushed them over, pushed us up. It was originally just south of 15%. We got that down to 9% with the contingent premium. So if the city were to perform a little bit better next year, MMO would write us a check back for up to 5% of what the premium is.
Okay, so there was no 1 month reprieve for the individual then?
No.
Okay, all right. So as long as we behave ourselves, we've got a potential.
And
getting
you've
something
done it
back.
before in the past also, so
Okay. All right, thank you.
sure.
So our premium for that we're looking at, I guess for 2021's about almost 3 million. 0.947 million, and we have a chance to get 5% of that back, maybe.
Correct. With it's 2.1 on the medical, and the dental's about another 100,000.
Oh, 2.
So yeah, you can get some of the 2.1 back, up to 5% of it.
Any questions on it? So we're still looking good overall over the long term. It's still beneficial for the city. This is kind of a hiccup to me. I guess 9% is a lot.
Dino, I'd just like to thank you again for all your hard work, because even though this is an increase this year, we've been so fortunate in the last 7 years with your help
Thank you.
to,
Yep.
even though we don't have to stomach this, but we will, and are grateful for the work that you've done. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Is there more?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 2220 advance request. Keith? This you?
Yep, thank you. This is, advances are just interfunds where we borrow from one fund to another for a grant project, and we're rolling that over.
Thank you. Do you have any idea? I mean, this is putting you on the spot. Are we still around 4 to 5 million in advances for grants? Is that kind of still hanging steady? Or are we?
I mean, I can check and get you what's outstanding right now. I don't know. It varies because things get paid back as we get the grants, and then we do more advances as we. So I don't know what's out right now.
All right. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2221 repay advance request. Keith?
This is the authorization to repay it.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Budget amendments. We have 20-051. That's the first one. Keith?
Yep. There's a whole bunch of things here. We're getting towards the end of the year, so we're covering lines that we're going to be short on. We also have a bunch of CARES things on here.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2020-052 grant projects.
This one's a little more specific. It's for grants.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2020-053 repay fiscal year 17 CDBG advance.
This is the advance we talked about a little bit earlier. We're appropriation to repay it.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2223 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding program Unicourt. Cindy Lastuska.
Oh, dear Lord. Thank you,
feel
Mr.
that-
President.
I feel close.
We applied for a grant earlier this year. We were awarded $46,000. We just need to have the mayor be authorized to sign the pre-award condition form. So then the state will go ahead and release the money to us. This is money not part of the CARES Act. This was Lori has the invoices that is different from what would be taken out for the CARES Act.
Cindy, if you could share why you need the emergency clause also, please.
The state is just, we're waiting for those funds to be released to us. I had Amy Dar, who's our grant probation officer. She called them, and we have to wait till the mayor signs it before they'll release the funds to us. So it's kind of like a holding act, and we don't want to lose those funds. So that's why we're trying to push as fast as we can.
Understood. Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2224, amend Salaries and Benefits Code, MCRC part-time pay rate schedule. Who's this, Jansen? Is this you? Can't get there. Jansen?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. This request is to adjust the part-time pay scale to cover the increase in Ohio minimum wage. It's adjusting everything from RC12 in the attached spreadsheet and below, raising it 10 cents to reflect the new 2021 wage of $8.80. Also included in that revision is the facility monitor position, which is the next item on the request. I just wanted to note that that is in there under RC 22.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2225, amending Salaries and Benefits Code, MCRC part-time position creation. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. With the retirement of Mike Wright at the rec center, we are currently short 3 full-time staff. As a busy season is approaching at the rec center, just a little backstory leading up to this request. We did invite the Medina County Health Department in last Tuesday to evaluate the rec center again, see if any changes could be made in the facility regarding the number of people permitted in the facility, the number of people allowed in fitness classes and aquatics classes, and there is an item in the agenda here to discuss some of those reopening changes. The need for this position arises because right now we currently have 4 full-time staff members opening the building and closing the building 7 days a week. Those 4 individuals are also filling in the roles of the 2 most recent full-time positions. So it's in the best interest of the rec center, after talking with the staff, to try and find, to cross-train employees. And the main reason behind this position is to combine the front desk attendant and the building monitor position into a new position called facility monitor, so that those individuals working the front desk, if they're capable, could also open the building with the additional responsibilities. And with the increase in numbers at the rec center, it's our hope that the individual in this position can also monitor for the facility and help out the front desk as needed, so that our full-time staff can spend more time doing their actual jobs rather than coming in and opening the building and monitoring the building. The Civil Service Commission did review the proposed changes and the job descriptions. I believe Mr. Huber has reviewed those as well. I did ask for the emergency clause because there's an immediate need with the staffing changes and future expanded hours to get these positions created and filled. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question. With the facilities attendant and building monitor, are we eliminating those positions? I don't think in this ordinance we're eliminating those positions. We're creating a new one, but do we have to come back and then do an ordinance to eliminate those other 2 positions?
Right now, we are not eliminating the facility attendant position. We're basically taking the duties of the 2 jobs and combining them into one. We did not turn in a request to eliminate the building monitor position because we felt that creating this new position and have somebody that is cross-trained, we will approach you at a later date to eliminate that position as long as everything goes as we intend it to. The goal
But, you can understand the concern. I mean, we don't want to keep adding positions unless we get rid of somebody and we're saving money doing it. So, that would be my concern. I don't know. And I understand what you're going through that process, but that's why I asked the question.
Well, just for clarification, if I may, these are unclassified part-time positions, and none of them are working right now.
Right.
So we're slowly going to bring some back that are capable of doing both jobs. I don't believe at this point in time, Jansen can correct me if he sees it differently, but I don't, until we get back to full operations and everybody that's a member going to the rec center through this COVID, we're not sure yet. If there's an ability to keep the combined positions and not go back to the two separate after we get back to full capacity, then we would likely do that because it would be a savings. If it's not possible, though, and we have to split the duties back up, then this position would likely go away and we'd go back to the individualized positions. But we're just not in a position today to answer that question.
All right, as you know, when we add positions as council, they're on the books, and try to keep track of every one of them. I mean, it's kind of tough, so I just...
Understood, and this is not an increase in, any amount of...
Right, because people are
funding.
off, so it's...
We're just using the existing funding and trying to use the people as effectively and as efficiently within their abilities.
I get it, yep. Any other questions? Denny?
Just comment, Mr. Worley, I think I can speak for my colleagues. Really appreciate you taking on this endeavor, and I'm sure you're going to do a great job at it, and I'll support your request. Thank you.
Mr. President, I just want to add, too, I was at Civil Service this past week when all of these things were discussed. I think it was our longest Civil Service meeting ever. There's a lot going on, a lot of unknowns for the rec center. I do appreciate all that Jansen's doing. He's still running the parks, the cemetery, forestry, and now took on this huge project during the pandemic with a lot of unknowns and very short notice to bring this all together. So I felt very good after we talked with Civil Service. Civil Service had many great questions. A lot of this is just kind of going to have to feel our way through this until things get back to normal with the MCRC. But it's in very good hands with both the mayor and Jansen, looking at everything, trying to save money, bottom line, but also trying to make sure we serve our patrons well and keep this place afloat during the COVID crisis.
Right. No, I get it. I mean, it's a tough time, and we got to make sure we generate the revenues to keep the rec center, moving forward. I mean, we don't, subsidy of the rec center long term is not a great option.
I just appreciate all the time and effort in a very short amount of time. These guys have been working very hard on this to try to make this work.
All right.
So,
Any other questions? Paul?
Not a question, just a comment. Thank you, Jansen, for taking this on, and I sincerely hope that in not too distant future we need these people and more, because of the attendance has gone up dramatically. Thank you.
Okay.
move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item we have is 2226, increased expenditure, advances outdoors for the police department. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an increase to our PO for Vance's. It's one of our equipment suppliers.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2227, expenditure of $15,000, Premier Fire Rescue Fire Department for the CARES Act. Chief Painter?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for a fit testing machine for our face masks. We usually have an outside vendor test them once a year. With almost daily to weekly cleaning they're going through, there's concern from the manufacturers that they could fail. So we would like to get our own testing machine here so the guys can make sure that the seals are working properly on these masks.
Questions?
Emergency clause.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I asked for emergency clause because to get it ordered and delivered in time for the CARES Act time frame.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2229, expenditure of $15,000, Wirtz Geotechnical Engineering from the Engineering Department. Mr. Patton?
Thank you. Wirtz Geotechnical is the firm we use for soil and concrete testing and inspection on the Lindenwood Lake Dam, and this request is to increase their PO to $18,500.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah, we missed one, Jeff.
That's what I thought too.
I think we skipped one.
Yeah, well, we skipped the one that was intentional. I'm sorry.
That was pulled.
But
Oh, okay.
number
Oh.
11 was pulled. I should have
Okay,
told you.
sorry.
Okay, so no AEDs.
No AEDs. That's not under the CARES Act coverage. So
I was like,
removed. I'm sorry. Again, 2229, we had a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2230, consent legislation with ODOT sign replacements in the city. Patrick?
Thank you. Next summer, ODOT will be doing a project to replace their route markers on the state and federal routes through town. This project is no cost to the city. They're just asking for our consent to allow them to do the project in the city limits.
Questions?
Mr. President,
Paul?
I've got a couple. It says provide adequate maintenance for described project in accordance with all applicable state and federal laws. What sort of maintenance is the city on the hook for?
We don't ever do maintenance on ODOT signage projects. That comes into
Section
play
4.
with, pardon me?
Section 4 maintenance.
Yeah, I can tell you we don't, that comes into play with the state routes. We'll do routine maintenance here and there on the actual pavement. But I'm not aware, I don't know, Nino, if you any experience, we've never replaced an ODOT route marker sign or anything.
Yeah, it says maintenance. You asked
Yeah.
for sign markers, I'm going to ask. Okay, if you said it's to maintain the roads, okay, because I know we get reimbursed for that.
Well, now you've jinxed us.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2231, discussion MCRC reopening changes. Jansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a discussion item. We wanted to bring it to council for review as it affects the operations at the rec center. As I alluded to earlier, we invited the health department to come back to evaluate the facility to see if we could make any changes. In the attached memo, some of the major changes we're looking to do, the rec center is currently open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're looking to use the facility monitor position to change that to 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. to hopefully capture those members that like to work out earlier before going to work. Expanding the hours, we're hoping that will also help alleviate some congestion that we have at the beginning and the ends of the days. We've got had to process several refunds for people who have stated that the hours are no longer why they have their memberships. So it seems like a relatively easy fix with the addition of the facility monitor position. We're also proposing opening earlier on Saturdays. Currently, they're only open 10 to 6. We're hoping to adjust that to 8 to 4 based on scans and numbers so that programming can start sooner so people can go about their day. We're also looking to change the hours on Sunday and possibly opening at 8 a.m. The rec center's never opened before 10 a.m. on Sundays, but we're currently looking to see if we can get some classes going to hopefully build programming and spread out the number of people coming in over a longer period of time if given the opportunity. Some of the Phase 3 restart changes, I'm not going to go through them all. They're in the list, but some of the major items, the building capacity, we're going to increase that to 150. The health department was okay with increasing our leisure pool capacity from 25 to 45. And we did start taking basketball registrations for our basketball program. And we're looking to modify the schedules and limit spectators in order to hold that event, as well as the possibility of discussing with the school about looking into facility rental somewhere else. We're also proposing changing the age restrictions in the facility. Right now you have to be 16 or older. That was part of Phase 1 reopening. We're looking to drop that down to at least high school age children, 13 and older, so that after school, if they are members of the rec, they'll have the opportunity to use it. So basically what we're looking to do is take down some of the barriers, open up as much as we can responsibly and safely, and work collaboratively with the schools and our existing staff to increase the frequency of cleaning and sanitizing to hopefully start on the rebound as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Jansen regarding the reopening plan? No. All right. Well, thanks for the guidance, and let's see how that would work, and hopefully we can get better participation and more people joining back. I guess.
John, if I could. So if there's no objections, we're going to go ahead and move forward with these. I don't think you need to take any legislative action, but we want to keep you informed. The other thing we've asked the staff, we had a staff meeting this morning at 9 a.m., Jansen and I, with the 4 full-time members, as well as Kurt, who had been there for so many years. And we're using this winter period to try to plan for more activities, both kind of coupling the parks and the rec together. So maybe a group isn't as comfortable coming into the rec center to do a class, but would be okay in one of our parks doing a class. The programming we have at the rec could also be transferred to the parks to try to have some activities for the school-age youth that maybe can't afford a rec center pass or a pool pass, but could come over to one of our parks and play kickball or coloring or crafts or whatever. And I know back when Bill was mayor, you know, we had a lot of these programs, and just through budget times, some of those things had to go away. So we're trying to do the best we can at looking at the overall operations of the rec, how it may complement the parks, and vice versa, to where it's kind of one unified approach with all of it. So I just thought council should be aware of that. Sir.
Thank you. Are you looking for community input for that, or just keeping it in-house?
Well, right now we're trying to get our heads wrapped around what is possible. I think once we have some ideas in place, and this seems to be the ideal time to do it, because obviously we can't have these things at the parks now, so let's start planning for the spring and into the summer. I think once we have some ideas, it would then be a good time to put them out and get input from the public, or things we haven't thought of if they have. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thanks. Item 15, 2232 CARES Act Small Business Grants. Kimberly?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is for council to consider funding 32 small business grant applications in the dollar amount of $179,450 from the CARES Act funding that the city received from Medina County, who received it from the state, who received it from the federal government. The city of Medina partnered with the county on this initiative to help businesses that were impacted by the mandatory government shutdown due to COVID-19 earlier this year. Each grant recipient will be required to submit a grant agreement, which all of you received in your packet, and is under review by Mr. Huber, our law director, and Mr. Hunt at Walter Haverfield. This request is also subject to working with the finance department to make sure that the businesses are registered with RETA. We are also kind of came in late in the game asking, since we didn't use the full $200,000 that was allotted by council, to sort of ask for the Economic Development Department to have an administrative fee of $4,560, with the remaining funds going into police and fire. So I think there's some language there that Kathy put together for the council floor this evening. I guess the question for council is, as we're reviewing all of the requests through to make sure that they're registered with RETA, I'm not sure how council wants to handle any cases where there may be a delinquency, so I guess that's something for you guys to discuss. But after review the applications and looking at what expenses are justifiable, because again, some businesses ask for things that could not be justified, like you can't use the money to start a new business. And it has to be spent on things other than, like if they got PPP money, they could not use this money for those same expenses. So some businesses were weeded out because of unqualifying expenditures.
Thank you. Questions?
We are also asking for the emergency clause, obviously, with the timing on when I think the funding has to be allocated by November 20th. Is that correct? Encumbered by November 20th. Thank you.
Questions?
Kimberly, so the funding that because we had allocated more funding than what you're using.
Yes.
And so there's no there's no further look at businesses or chances at for more applications. This is the end of this process?
Yeah, because we really don't have enough time to go out and ask for new applications. And so it's a good point of clarification, though. So what we did is we took the applications that the county commissioners only funded partially. So if you remember, they did 3 different rounds of funding. In the very beginning, they didn't know how much money they were going to get. And so some businesses maybe only got like $750 or only a portion of their request funded. So we got those applications from the county that met the requirements, and we looked at those remaining portion because we just didn't have enough time to go out and ask for a new batch of applications. And because there were already so many in the funding pool, we felt like we would probably spend the $200,000. But after, like, Barbara and I scrubbed them twice to go back and make sure. And there are actually 4 nonprofits I did want to mention. I think you saw the list.
Yes.
That were, put in there for consideration. So this is the number that we came up with and that we're comfortable with bringing to council. There are 2 businesses that are in this list that did not receive any funding at all from the county.
Okay.
Okay.
I really appreciate the work you did and the work with the county too, because all of us I know, are concerned about local business, and while $200,000 isn't going to, change the whole dynamic, for a lot of businesses, some money can make the difference, I think, between success and failure or serious struggle. So, I appreciate the work you did, and I'm glad that it worked out this way and we were able to be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Eric?
Go ahead, Eric.
I was just curious on how the decision was made for the amounts. Is that what they requested or what wasn't given to them by the county? Because there's some very drastic numbers on here.
Yeah, it's all over the board, and a lot of it or all of it is based on what they requested and then what they had already received.
Okay.
So there are 2 businesses on there that have not received any money, and so the one that is the most money on there had not received anything from the county.
Okay.
And lost revenue was an eligible expense. And being shut down, obviously, they all had lost revenue.
Sure.
Some of them specifically requested it, others did not.
And again, I don't have a question, Kimberly. I just want to add on to what Bill said. Thank you and your staff, and pass along to the county members that were working on this. Again, it's not a fix-all, but boy, it sure will help when time is needed, and the time is needed now. So, thank you very much.
And I think the question you asked earlier, 2 questions about the administrative fee, I think that's reasonable. I mean, it has to be used prior to the December deadline. But the other question is, if a grant fails for some particular reason, where does that money go? I think it should just go back into either the police or fire salaries. I mean, I don't think there's time to relook at it, and it's just too hard.
I think the other question is if we find out that a business is a little bit delinquent, do we still just want to help them out? Because this is really related to COVID.
Delinquent on paying their income tax?
On their local income tax.
I don't know about, that's a question.
Well, are we trying to help them?
Well,
There's a discussion.
I guess
We don't know what the reason is why they're doing it.
Well,
I mean,
I guess I would draw a distinction there. If they're late on their profit tax, I don't think that's a big deal. If they're late on their withholding, you don't want to give them any money because that's the end.
right. No, I guess you're correct. I mean, the net profit tax is one thing. The withholding that they're required to do is another. So that makes a lot of sense.
That's the distinction I would make. The other thing I wanted to point out in answer to the general question is anything within the CARES money that we don't spend all of, that's going to be what we're going to do in finances. That's all going to get reallocated to that catch-all at the bottom. We're using that police salaries as a plug figure for the rest of the money.
Okay.
Understood.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
yes.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 2233, amend salaries and benefits for a new MCRC superintendent position. Jansen, you're back again.
Thank you, Mr. President. as we've talked about several times this evening, there's a lot of changes at the rec center, and over the last 2 weeks, I've spent a good deal of time meeting with staff, both as a group and individually, to kind of try and gain a better handle on operations at the rec center, including job duties. There's a number of employees that have been there since the rec center had opened, that have been through several different leadership changes and structures. So the purpose of meeting with the staff and listening to them was trying to gain a better understanding of their abilities, as well as what they liked and what they disliked about different organizational structures. Obviously, with the current state of the environment that we're in, that makes it even more challenging, especially when the rec center is losing money daily. So after sitting down with the staff, and listening to their duties, as well as, well, to take a step back, we currently have 3 full-time positions vacant. The program specialist, which has been vacant for over a year now, the director position, and then the recreation supervisor. So with those vacancies, obviously there's some cost savings. I looked at the job descriptions for all of those positions, and tried to come up with at least a good, sound, temporary plan for the rec center, and have talked with the staff about additional responsibilities that we're going to have to do, and they have all bought in and understand that we all need to do a little bit more so that we can continue operating at current staffing levels and figure out ways to bring in more revenue. One thing that was clear to me is that, like I mentioned, we have some very good staff at the rec, and that there are certainly people with the abilities to step up as leaders for the rec center. So I submitted a request to create a recreation center superintendent position that would supervise all the day-to-day activities at the rec center, as well as be responsible for the budget, the financial management, including all payroll, purchasing, and reporting. Obviously, the rec center is an enterprise fund, and the finances are of utmost importance, as well as service to the patrons that also help drive that. So the job description that you see does have a considerable amount of information or job duties that pertain to financial background, as well as responsibilities to be the point person for the number of relationships that we have with the school and other organizations, be responsible for reviewing the joint operating agreement, as well as working with the various people at the schools, the custodial staff. There's a lot of moving parts at the rec center that takes a lot of communication, and we have people still at the rec center that are familiar with all of those processes. And to me, after reviewing everything and talking with the staff, that creating a new position, although it may be temporary, to me was of value because it was completely new job description where all of those details that we're currently missing are now in that job description. This was presented to the Civil Service Commission, and it was discussed that if it was created and filled, that we would make a temporary promotional appointment and review the job as well as the operations of the rec center, including all other job descriptions over the next 6 months, because we can't predict the future. It might very well get worse before it gets better, and we have to try and navigate through that, and there's just so much unknown that it's really hard to try and come up with a permanent solution right now. I have the ability and the time to devote to the rec center now because it's our off season, so we're committed to get through this and figure out what's in the best interest of the city moving forward, but that's going to take time. The most important thing for me was to have that point person identified at the rec center so we can inform all the contacts that do business at the rec center, as well as communicate that with the patrons, and start implementing some of these new ideas that the staff has and continue trying to navigate through this. The emergency clause is requested, obviously, because of the vacancies that we have, and it's rather important to get this role, an individual placed into the position.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
I'm sorry, John, can I ask one more thing? So we already have this person assigned doing these duties. If the Finance Committee would be willing to make it retroactive to starting today, I know we still have to go through council, but this person's assumed those responsibilities already in lieu of us working these processes through. Thank you.
And the current person, he said again, was in what position? Currently?
The current job description not only looks at those 3 vacant positions that we have, it's also combining the responsibilities of the finance assistant in with it. So there is even further.
Yeah, no, but I mean, what's the person's current position prior to this position? What were they doing there?
Finance assistant.
Just, that's it?
Correct.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
So the motion was with the retroactive
emergency
date as
clause
of today and the
effective
second
today.
that?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
2234, extending public defender contract for 2021. Mr. Huber?
We are in a contract with the public defenders since 2012. A part of that contract allows for a yearly extension of the contract, and the agreement with the public defenders has worked well. The resolution would simply need to extend the contract term to December of 2021. I think Kathy attached the resolution from last year, so the change in the resolution that would be put before the council would extend the contract to December of 2021.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have one more that is not on the agenda, just kind of a discussion item, just so we can start thinking about it. This has to do with the payout of vacation time. So Keith, if you could give like a little summary so we could try to digest this information.
Yeah, thank you. I've asked here that we, well, let me back up, I guess. In order for an employee to cash out unused vacation time under the code and the union contracts, they have to have used 120 hours, that's 3 weeks, during the year. And then the definition of year is a little hazy because it changes, but they have to use 120 hours, and then they can cash out any excess they have over the cap, the max that they're allowed to carry. What I've asked is that we waive that 120-hour requirement for 2020, because obviously we've had a lot going on with the pandemic. We had the tornado, we've had all this other stuff. A lot of people haven't been able to use their time. So we'd like to waive that and then just let them cash out the overage this year without hitting that 120.
And in order to do that, the next council meeting, we have to go from finance to council because it's the deadline to make that determination is December 5th.
Well, the deadline for them to use it, right, is December 5th.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood, yeah.
Next meeting do finance, since it's not on the agenda, we have to put it on the agenda, talk about it and do that.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions about that so you can think about it? Paul?
Yeah, if you could forward us the approximate dollar amount that would be. I know you're not going to be able to hit it up to the penny.
We'll take a stab at it. I mean, because it's a moving target, because people are using time and will use time between now and December 5th. So, I mean, I can give you a kind of a snapshot, but it'll be a guess.
At least we would know it would be no bigger than.
Still better than nothing.
Right.
Okay.
It's a number to work with.
All right, any other
Because when you
comments
cash
on
out
that?
time, you're getting paid and using vacation at the same time.
Okay, I will make a motion at 6:16 p.m. to go into executive session for the purpose of conference with the law director for the city concerning disputes involving the city that are subject to pending or imminent court action to include the mayor, the law director,
And Judge Gary Warner.
and Judge Gary Warner.
Second?
Will the clerk please call the roll and recessing into executive session?
Lamb,
Yes.
Shields,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Hazeltine,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Heffinger,
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We'll be recessing into executive session to discuss the imminent litigation. Coming out of executive session, taking no action from the items discussed in executive session, reconvening into finance, and then adjourning finance and getting ready for council. We are in recess.